कितने हास्यास्पद है, हम प्राथमिक शिक्षा को फ्री करेंगे। हमारे यहाँ 1960 से प्राथमिक शिक्षा फ्री है, अब क्या फ्री करोगे भाई तुम? फ्री है। उनको ये भी मालूम नहीं यहाँ क्या चल रहा है, स्वाभाविक है यहाँ के नहीं है तो, परंतु थोड़ा स्टडी तो करना चाहिए।
जब फ्रीबीज की बात होती है तो केंद्रीय सरकार भी तो फ्रीबीज दे रही है, कहीं ऐसा जैसे कि फ्री राशन दे रहे हैं आप, उसकी आपकी व्यवस्था बनी हुई है, फ्री सिलेंडर आप भी दे रहे हैं, तो इसको आप कैसे देखते हैं? क्या ये फ्रीबीज नहीं?
देखिए, दो चीजों में तत्वतः फर्क है। जैसे भारत सरकार की सो कॉल्ड फ्रीबीज, किसी को घर देना, किसी को गैस का कनेक्शन देना, किसी के घर में लाइट पहुंचाना, किसी को आयुष्मान भारत का कार्ड देना, और अब अंत में आपने जो कहा,
The overall consensus note that has been signed at the G20 summit in Bali echoes India's thoughts, and that were laid by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But what Prime Minister Narendra Modi did or said when he was addressing the Indian diaspora is of significance, ladies and gentlemen. At the G20 summit and in Indonesia, while addressing the gathering, he has endeavored to put India as the thought leader, ready to meet the expectations of the world in the 21st century. But he's also asked India, most importantly Indians, to be proud of what we have achieved. Listen to what he said.
भारत का टैलेंट, भारत की टेक्नोलॉजी, भारत का इनोवेशन, भारत की इंडस्ट्री, आज इन सारी बातों ने दुनिया में अपनी एक पहचान बनाई है। आज विश्व की अनगिनत कंपनियां ऐसी हैं, कई बड़ी कंपनियां ऐसी हैं जिसके सीईओ भारतीय मूल के हैं। आज दुनिया में जितने यूनिकॉर्न बनते हैं ना, 10 में से 1 यूनिकॉर्न भारत का होता है। आज भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग लार्ज इकोनॉमी है। आज भारत डिजिटल लेन देन में दुनिया में नंबर 1 है। आज भारत ग्लोबल फिनटेक के मामले में दुनिया में नंबर 1 है। आज भारत आईटी बीपीएन के लिए आउटसोर्सिंग में दुनिया में नंबर 1 है। आज भारत स्मार्टफोन डेटा कंजम्पशन में दुनिया में नंबर 1 है। आज भारत कितनी ही दवाइयों की सप्लाई में, अनेकों वैक्सीन की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में दुनिया में नंबर 1 है। साथियों, 2014 के पहले और 2014 के बाद के भारत में बहुत बड़ा फर्क जो है, मोदी नहीं है, वो बहुत बड़ा फर्क है स्पीड और स्केल में।
Speed, scale and intent, but more importantly to emerge out of the self-loathing and replace that with self-confidence and belief. That's the message. as PM Modi has endeavored to pitch Bharat as a thought leader. We'll take that forward later tonight on The Right Stand. Winding up the nation at 5 on that note, Zaka is ready with Viewpoint. Stay with us. Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. It's the shocking murder that has sent a chill down every Indian spine. The murder and the absolute savagery of Shraddha Walkar by her boyfriend and partner Aftab Poonawala. Today, Aftab was taken to the crime spot, the very place where he said he scattered Shraddha's body parts. The Delhi police claim that about a dozen body parts have been recovered, many of them in an unrecognizable and completely decomposed state. They have been sent for forensic analysis. The Delhi police are hopeful that it will return positive results. Whether this will stand in a court of law, whether this will be accepted as evidence in a court of law, all of that is anyone's guess as of this stage. But some more shocking revelations coming through as it is believed that Aftab Poonawala carried on with life as usual, dating other women even after killing his girlfriend and storing her body parts in a fridge. There were reportedly other women who came to his flat. How could he carry on like nothing ever happened? What sort of degree of depravity is this of this young man? The biggest question is, how did he get away with it for so long? But first, the story.
Murdering a lover, chopping up the dead body into pieces to dispose of it, storing it for weeks in a fridge, and living a perfectly normal life alongside. Blood-curdling, grisly, hair-raising horror becomes an understatement. The actions of Aftab Poonawala working with police to reconstruct the crime and the body disposal aftermath in the jungles of Mehrauli in South Delhi certainly comes across as extending beyond criminality to psychopathic derangement.
This is the garbage dump and this area from where he used to enter this jungle area, and across the road is the area where Aftab used to stay with Shraddha. Every night he used to cross the road, come to this jungle area and then dispose of the body parts that he had chopped, the body that he had chopped into 35 pieces, dispose of the body parts in this jungle. You can see this is a dense area, and therefore it's a challenge for the police and the forensic team to find out where, in what all areas would the body parts be lying.
Consider this: Shraddha Walkar, strangled in May this year by lover Aftab amid a fallout, is hacked into 35 pieces. Aftab stores Shraddha's dismembered body in a refrigerator specially bought for the purpose and carries parts of it to various places across the city for 18 nights in a row to dispose them off. Police say Aftab told them he was inspired by a crime thriller TV series. All along and for the last 5 months, he lives in the same apartment. He invites female friends over, lights incense sticks to camouflage the stench, and gives nothing away by any changes in demeanor to friends or family. Shraddha's parents have raised the love jihad angle, demanding the death penalty. Questions have been raised against the dating app Aftab used to get in touch with Shraddha and possibly others. But does it go beyond all of this? Is this the psychopath killer who would stop at nothing? The killer who doesn't blink an eyelid out of guilt? Not just police and legal action, is there a psychological illness dimension at work here?
All right, let me now bring in our guests. This is a crime that is beyond anything that words can express. It has shocked the very conscience of this nation. Dr. Nisha Khanna is a psychologist, Mrinalini Deshmukh, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Nirmal Kaul is former IPS officer, and will also be joined by Dr. Mahabali Shetty, forensic expert. Dr. Nisha Khanna, I want to start with you first. Apparently, this was an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship, because even in the past, not just this year, when Shraddha Walkar was so tragically killed, but even back in 2020 and in 2021, her friends have attested that she had texted them. Some of them went to rescue her in 2021. They saw bruises on her neck, in her chest, in her nose. And at that time too, she had said that she will leave Aftab. She had in fact stayed at a friend's house for 2 days, but somehow the third day he managed to say something to her and brought her back. Her friends say that Aftab used to emotionally blackmail her. Why would anyone be in such a physically and mentally abusive relationship?
Better. So there are lots of reasons if a person is into a toxic relationship and not even do the efforts to get out of that relationship. The first thing is she started talking about that the relationship was toxic, and that's a good thing there. But he has seen the red flags. Maybe the codependency is one word which I can say, that when you are living with the abusive partner and you don't have the courage to walk out. Second thing is, I will say that emotionally the person is very weak. The person maybe had a history of past, maybe have a violent relationships, maybe had witnessed abusive relationships of parents. It may be one of the reason. May herself had a history of bullying also, maybe, or a history of some molestation, because we don't know about her past. So the friends are now talking about these things, that she was like having those things maybe 5 months or 6 months back. Nobody talked about this. So you have to understand that when the person is in such sort of relationship, sometimes you can't able to take rejection. This is the one major problem I have seen in the couples. They are not able to say rejection. Okay, I walked out, I left my city, I walked out from my parents, take a stand against this man, how I can go back. And other reason what I have seen in the couple's finances, you can say this couple was financially, because this guy was also in 20s, maybe financially not settled that much. So those, what sort of financial background, and you have big dreams, you are not able to achieve that. There is no boundaries. As in the relationship, they met through a dating app, maybe have a physical intimacy issue, how the relationship started off. And you, for the physical relationship, lots of couples that whenever they had a fight, they end up with the physical intimacy, which is not a good sign, that you don't sit and resolve those issues.
Okay, I want to ask Mrinalini Deshmukh as a lawyer, something that is staggering for me is after he did what he did, killed his girlfriend, cut up her body into 30-odd parts and then stored it in a fridge, the police are now saying that Poonawalla allegedly got in touch with other women as well. He went on with life as normal using the same dating app, Bumble, in which he had first come into contact with Shraddha Walkar. This was in 2019. In fact, one of these women, the Delhi police believe, even came to that house, the very same house where Shraddha was killed and her body parts were cut up and stored in a fridge. How can anyone carry on with life like nothing ever happened? And what does it say of these other people who came to that house that no fingers of suspicion were raised at that time? Their antennas were not up.
So actually, I think this is one of the best crime thrillers that one has ever seen or witnessed, to put it in a little lighter vein. It is terrible, it's horrific, it is shocking beyond words. And as my earlier panelist was also talking about, why did this girl, Shraddha, take it for so long? I think it's something what is known as a Stockholm syndrome, where a victim starts enjoying the captivity under which she lives. And that is the reason why it cannot be love. It cannot be that this girl was so foolish to be able to not see through the psychic behavior or the abnormal behavior of this man. There are fights, there are issues, there are disputes between couples, undoubtedly. But I think this was beyond something. And to answer your question, that how is it that the people who were being entertained by him after chopping her and keeping in the refrigerator? I mean, I have questions asked about Shraddha, or were they completely kept in dark about it and said that, oh, she's traveling on work or she's gone to her parents or something of that sort? We really have no idea about it. We can only know once the police starts investigating these people who he was talking to or whom he was inviting.
Just paint this picture in your head, ma'am. Just 10 seconds. Paint this picture in your head. You are sitting in a room with another man who you met just a few days ago on a dating app. And right next to you is a refrigerator in which there is a dead body. I mean, how macabre is that?
Absolutely. And absolutely. I think there is much more to it than the way what the investigation is now recording. Was it kept in the fridge? Was it kept in a fridge which was kept somewhere which was not in a typical places like a living room or a kitchen, wherever you may otherwise have it? We really don't have the details. We just have a detail that it was kept in the fridge. I think the investigation report that comes out will give us finer details, which probably the police are now not revealing, of course, for right reasons, because they don't want the investigation to be hampered by any
I also want to bring in this aspect, and I'll get Nirmal Kaur to respond to this. So, first of all, the fact that he carries on with life, is dating other women, bringing some of them over as well. even as he has just killed his girlfriend and partner, and her body parts are still inside the fridge in his living room. But more importantly, according to investigators, Poonawalla also logs into Shraddha Walkar's Instagram accounts. He messages her friends privately to give the impression that she's still alive. He also pays her credit card bills so that the credit card companies don't go to her house in Mumbai from where these credit cards have been registered. So explain to us the absolute criminal bent of mind of such a person who not only kills his partner but also has the criminal bent of mind to go to her Instagram account, to message her friends to give the impression that she's alive, and to pay her credit card bills.
This is a very, I
Does
mean,
it
it's
not
obviously a
Nirmal
very
Kaur,
smart
yeah.
criminal. It's psychopathic behavior, it's psychopathic behavior on the face of it. But if you see deeply, there's a lot of social approval to this kind of a behavior, in socialization of these boys, because they think that all the non-Muslim girls are kafir girls and they're not even human beings. Even our cattle's better than them. And, they're there just to be captured, to be violated, to be used as, sex machines or something, or to be converted to our religion and to add to our race. This is the kind of socialization. And also in religion, this kind of behavior, if you're converting others or if you're, lessening the kafir kind of population or taking away the kafir thing, that has a lot of approval in which, you are
Ma'am, may I just intervene for 10 seconds? So far from the police, yes, the father in some interviews has suggested that he suspects that there is a love jihad angle, but the police so far are completely refraining from that, saying this has nothing to do with any attempted forced conversion or change of faith or any of that. This was just a love affair that went sour, and of course, he happens to be an absolute maniac that he did this to the person that he was living with.
In this entire episode, where do you see his love? Where is the love?
No, it is obvious to all of us. It's obvious to all of us. Clearly, it was not obvious to Shraddha Walkar.
Though then the question of a love affair doesn't enter. It was just war for him. Some kind of a conquest and a love jihad. What else is it? To win a girl over and to,
No, which is why I'm saying again that so far the police are suggesting that there is nothing to show some kind of a love jihad angle. That's what the police are saying. That's what I'm placing on record.
I don't know if a relationship comes, obviously in this relationship, if there was any love, it was only from Shraddha's side, who clung on to him despite all the, all things to the contrary.
I want to go to Dr. Shetty. Dr. Shetty, today Aftab was taken to this forest area where he disposed of her body parts 6 months ago. Explain to our viewers, what is even recoverable from these body parts? Will they be in a position where they can be sent for forensic analysis? Will any material of any value or worth, which can be produced in court, be recovered from these body parts? What state will they be in 6 months on now?
Yeah, good evening, all my panelists. Good evening to all your viewers. Yeah, what police have told that they have recovered few bone pieces from the site, the forest area.
Yes.
Up to 5 to 10 years, it won't be an issue. Only thing, the first part is they'll get a small pieces of bone, where it's very difficult to identify whether it's a human or animal. So the particular bone will be subject to precipitin test or electrophoresis, where we can make it as come to conclusion that this particular small piece of bone will be a human or not. Okay. If it is human, then the second step is that we are supposed to go for DNA analysis, where they'll take a blood from a parents and compare it, and they'll come to conclusion. I had a similar case, 3 or 4 cases I had. Out of the 2 have been convicted for almost 10 years imprisonment. So this case will definitely go for conviction, provided they get a single piece of bone. And
how easy or difficult will it be to prove that it is indeed Shraddha Walkar's body remains?
Yeah, it's enough. One small piece of bone is enough to tell that it belongs to Shraddha Walkar's body, based on the DNA analysis.
Okay, fair enough. Let me go back to Dr. Nisha Khanna. Again, you look at some of his Instagram posts. Apparently, he had 28,000 followers on Instagram. It used to be primarily a food blog. people are also resharing his old Facebook posts in which she talks about women's rights, environmentalism, support for LGBTQ rights. It's almost like a schizophrenic personality, the outward personality that he's putting out on social media to his friends, to his family, to the outside world, and what he was really with his girlfriend and live-in partner. It's like almost like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes, it happens. I think so. When I highlighted on different channels that a person on the same time can love you, and the same aspect of another aspect of your personality completely hate the person. It may be a possibility. Now it is schizophrenia, whether it is a split personality, whether it is psychopathic traits. That guy is suffering from severe psychiatric illness. There is no doubt. The psychopathic, brilliant IQ. He planned everything out to buy the fridge and cut the girl into pieces. It's all there. No empathy, no remorse. All those things are there. The way I was again relationship. She didn't take a stand. It may be because of Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome is that when a person is into love with someone and other person or your partner is abusive and take the abuse. Recently, movie on I think on Netflix, Darling of Alia Bhatt.
Yeah.
It talks about the Stockholm syndrome, where the woman was in love with the man who was abusive, and they had a love marriage. I'm finding it out. You can correlate this. This girl was in love with the guy who was abusive, and it's like a Stockholm syndrome is not an illness. It is a coping defense mechanism a person may have when the person is into abusive relationship.
No, what I do want to know, Dr. Khanna, is if he indeed had, this kind of split personality or schizophrenic behavior, how come he didn't show any of these traits to either his friends or family? How come none of them picked this up before he went on to do what he went to do to Shraddha Walkar?
Because the person is having brilliance in emotional IQ. Intelligence is very high. I know what to hide, when to hide, what to speak, how to handle. And if the person is like the communication skills of the person is brilliant, that's why I'm saying it. How much energy or intelligence you require to be a scientist, similar amount of intelligence you require to be a terrorist or to be a murderer. As I would say that you are sharpening your skills on the negative traits.
Okay.
Negative traits when you are taking risks. Communication skills, how I can influence people. As you said, in the age of 20, he has 28,000 followers. How to present self, how to be influenced others. It was easy for him to do so. And that's why you try to talk about that he knows that what are the weak points of other person. Maybe this girl's weak points are. And when you are saying people are not aware about mental health issues, people are not aware about psychiatric illnesses. India is very far away. They are not having any length about when the person is suffering from any mental illness, where there are the red flags, how to identify those signs. It's very important.
Mrinalini Deshmukh, one aspect that needs to be sort of highlighted and questions will be asked is about, checks and balances on some of these new social media sites, whether it's dating apps like Bumble or even, direct messaging on apps like Instagram. How is it that people are dropping their walls of, suspicion or walls of, you don't just, e-meet someone on the internet once or twice and then, be ready to go to his house. I mean, why were her antennas not up? How can you implicitly trust people who you meet on the internet with just a few hours of interaction?
That's exactly what the main question is. I think what we need to address is about these dating apps also. One of the reasons that we have to understand is what is the data that is being given. If I want to enroll myself on this dating apps, how do they verify whether the data that I am giving, what are the balances what are the checks and balances that they do, and what is the verification they do? Nothing. It is just based on what information I am giving. Yeah. And the other person is equally gullible to fall for that information, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. Nobody goes and checks what it is, whether it's a fake account or whether it's a genuine account. My suggestion, and taking a clue from certain things, and as horrific as Shraddha's murder, I think there should be check on these dating apps. They should be held liable for making two people come together without doing the proper due verification. Now you are not just introducing two people. You are at times resulting in such horrific instances because the identity of that person is not truly portrayed on your app.
Clearly, I mean, he has so much EQ, as the psychiatrist said, that he can present a totally different face to the outside world on social media. But what he really was to Shraddha Walkar, that's a completely, like I said, almost Jekyll and Hyde. But I want to bring in Nirmal Kaur as well. You know, it does also raise some questions about the family of Shraddha. Apparently, they had not heard from her since May, but they waited till October, when one of her friends, one of her childhood friends, apparently told the brother, and the brother then subsequently informed her father, who then registered a missing persons complaint. This was in October. Between May and October, the family had no contact with Shraddha, and that did not raise their hackles, that did not raise any suspicions?
I think Shraddha had annoyed her family by choosing to walk away and not following their gut feeling about the boy. So that is what must have upset them. And also they were kind of reassured by friends telling them that, oh, they are seeing her messages on Instagram, or they are, they are seeing signs that she is up and around, alive and kicking.
But she's still your daughter. Wouldn't you want to speak to her on the phone every day, find out how she's doing? I mean, just because friends have seen her messages on Instagram doesn't mean that she's okay.
But she had rebelled against her family and joined this boy. She had rebelled against them and defied them to be with him.
Which is fine. All kids rebel. All kids, defy their family. It's at some point for different reasons. But that doesn't mean parents just give up on their children.
No, they had not given up. The kind of pains the parents are taking right now means that they had not given up. They are troubled about their daughter, and they were kind of, they were helpless. What can they do if the child decides?
No, but as they say in this part of the world, अब करने से क्या फायदा? बेटी तो मर गई.
हाँ, तो पहले भी करने से क्या फायदा? They tried to warn her. They tried to stop her from this, this vortex. This.
Dr. Khanna wants to come in. Yeah.
I want to say that numerous times when I dealt with family issues, on especially relationship issues, if I call up the families and these children have not having a healthy relationships, I think so through the news channels only I got to know they said that she was very close to her chacha. So you have to understand that the family dynamic is already in a question mark. That's one of the reasons maybe that the person had an abusive relationship and not walked it out. That's why I'm saying it. If you get into details, we spend hours and hours with the patients and they share it out. It's very common. Even we able to see the red flags.
No, I am very clear about two things which seemingly are not explained by anyone. One, why was she putting up with an abusive relationship? And hers is not a lone case. A lot of women tend to put up with abusive relationships. We don't know why. And secondly, the family can't just give up on her just because, she decided to date someone that they did not approve of. And especially for 6 months when they had not heard from her, I don't think any family would just, let it be, thinking as though sab theek hai.
I would
say,
that
there are numerous reasons for that. That's why I said it to you. That there are numerous reasons for that children these days, maybe that is the low self-esteem issues, not having a healthy relationship with the parents, maybe have abusive history in the past, maybe have witnessed parents fights, frequent quarrels, their physical abusive relationships. That may be also one of the reasons.
Mrilanli, and then I'll give the final word to Dr. Shetty after that. Mrilanli, yeah.
So, I think we were as horrified of hearing this news as we were about the Sheena Bora. That also came from a relationship of a mother and a daughter. Now, there is no explanation why do people behave in such a manner. But I completely agree with you. How can parents, even if the child has rebelled and gone and they have not heard about her, how can they just disown her? And right now, if they're moving heaven and earth to do it, sorry, buddies, it's too late in the day. You should have done it when their daughter was not contactable for nearly 4 to 5 months.
Exactly.
That shows either there's a disdain from the part of the parents, or it is, okay, let her suffer, let her do what it is. She will realize her mistake and then she'll come back to us. And then
I also want to put a caveat here that Shraddha's mother had died in 2020, just when COVID was happening. Her mother and father had been separated even prior to that. So the only parent she had alive was the father, who's of course now the one who's running from pillar to post, trying to get justice for his daughter. But surely, I mean, somebody should have been in touch with her. Somebody should have
known her whereabouts. Somebody should have known what her mental state of being is. And finally, Dr. Shetty, I'll give you this final word. Because just in terms of being able to prove this case in a court of law, as of now, the cops have nothing. They have a so-called confessional that this boy has made, which is not admissible in a court of law. They have not recovered the murder weapon. Forensic evidence, we don't know how easy or difficult that will be to prove in a court of law. What basis is this story going to hold in a court of law? Tomorrow, if let's say Aftab resigns from his statement, what do the cops have to corroborate this story?
The circumstantial evidence. This case is based only on circumstantial evidence and scientific evidence. The presence of blood in the fridge, by luminol test, they'll be able to detect, at least even if he washes multiple times, they can detect the blood and presence of that blood in the fridge, and whatever bone parts they are recovered in the forest area. Even a small piece of bone is enough. And to add on, they'll go to the shop where he has bought the knife, where he has bought the fridge. So it's all circumstantial evidence and scientific evidence. Definitely there's a good case, because I myself represented the prosecution witness in 3 cases. Out of the 2 got life imprisonment. The similar cases where they are butchered, I mean, they are chopped for more than 20 pieces. But this is horrendous, where he has chopped for 35
All right.
pieces.
Okay, Dr. Shetty, I want to thank you. I'm completely out of time. I'm getting a piece of breaking news which I need to go to now. These are pictures coming in from Bali. This is the opening dinner that all the leaders have had. And these are pictures of Prime Minister Modi shaking hands with Xi Jinping of China. Remember, things have been rather tenuous, the relationship between India and China, since the Galwan clashes of 2020. This is the first sort of interaction that they've had. An informal one over dinner. This is the gala dinner for all the leaders who've come there for the G20 summit. You can see both Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan to his side, and the Prime Minister having a conversation with both of them. Both of them, of course, for the gala dinner, all the heads of state will be dressed, of course, in the bush shirts, in the nice printed flowery bush shirts, which, of course, is a theme for the Bali summit. Let me try and see if we can go across to Abhishek Jha, our MEA reporter who's there in Bali covering this event. Remember, there's been no interaction, formal or informal, between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping of China since 2020 June, since the Galwan clashes. They had in fact also been in the same summit in Samarkand just a few months ago at the SCO summit, but there was no interaction between the two gentlemen. This time, again, very informal. This could have lasted just a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, just a handshake and some brief words exchange between the Prime Minister and the President of China. Also, you can see the wife of Xi Jinping, Peng Liyuan, there to his side. The Prime Minister, of course, flanked by an interpreter to his left. Just a very, very brief interaction with Xi Jinping. What was discussed, we don't know. The significance of what was discussed, but the significance of this handshake itself is important because, like I said, there's been no formal or informal communication, in-person communication between the leaders of both India and China since Galwan happened. And even this is not a formal pull-aside meeting. This is simply pleasantries from the looks of it that were exchanged at the start of this gala dinner. Remember, the heads of the 20 most powerful countries, the 20 biggest economies in the world, are meeting in Bali. This is the 17th G20 summit. India, of course, is going to be the incoming presidency. It's going to hold the incoming presidency of the G20 and will be the host of the G20 summit next year. It'll be interesting to see if we have some details of what was exchanged, what words were exchanged between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi. With that, it's a wrap. On the other side, a special show live from Mehrauli, from right outside the house where Aftab and Shraddha Walkar were living, and in the same house where Aftab killed his girlfriend and partner and then chopped up her body and stored it in a fridge. This is a live show of the biggest exclusive with Rhythm Nagar.
Good evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. Over the last 48 hours, if there has been one story that has made headlines and that has baffled everybody, has been the story that has come out from where I'm coming to you this evening. That is from Mehrauli. The murder of Shraddha by her live-in partner Aftab has baffled every person. A couple who looked like an ordinary couple who was having a live-in relationship that ended in this gruesome brutality. What really happened? I'm coming to you from the killer's den. This is exactly where the couple Aftab and Shraddha used to reside. This is a house in Mehrauli. Before we get talking about what really had happened, I quickly want to first show you what the killer's den looks like. We're going to give you an inside access now of the residence where the couple actually stayed. This is exactly the room where the couple used to stay and where Aftab murdered Shraddha, chopped up her body in 35 different parts. You can't see any stains of any blood or any reminiscence of the body parts because of the kind of planning that was done by Aftab. What we're understanding, the murder took place in the month of May. Then over a period of 18 to 20 days, Aftab used to dispose of part by part of Shraddha's body in the middle of the night in a nearby forest area. How come you don't see any blood stains here is the question you might want to ask. Because what we're understanding as far as investigation is concerned, he used bleach to try and get the stains away. How did the neighbors not hear anything is another question that has baffled the investigating agencies. Who were Aftab and Shraddha? Why did Aftab want to indulge himself in such brutality? These are remnants of the fridge that Aftab had bought to actually store the body parts of Shraddha. Remember, Shraddha was his live-in partner. He chopped off her body in 35 different parts. I would ask my camera person Pramod to come once again and give you a sense of what the residence looked like. It looked like any other ordinary residence. We're understanding he dragged the body from this room that you see to an inside area. There's a washroom there, and apparently he chopped the body off in different parts in that bathroom. He then used bleach, as I pointed out, to try and cover the blood stains. I want to now walk out and also show you what the other surrounding areas actually look like. A lot of neighbors that we've spoken to have said that Aftab was a person who was aloof. He didn't really mingle with too many people. He didn't really have any friends. His last spotting by most neighbors was at this very spot. Many neighbors had seen him standing here, but no really red flags went out because he was somebody, as I said, who didn't really have any friends. The landlord, of course, is currently somebody who's not had any contact with the investigating agencies. That is currently also being looked into. Most of the neighbors, kind of seeing the media presence, are also today very apprehensive of wanting and come to talk to us to help us understand of what really happened. But I did speak to a few neighbors, and this is what they had to say. Most neighbors here are in disbelief because they feel that this is an area where most people actually know each other. But Aftab was an exception. He was aloof. He didn't speak to a lot of people. He didn't really have any friends. The larger question that is on everybody's mind is, when you live in a society where houses are placed so close to next to each other, how come the neighbors didn't sense that something was going wrong? I want to speak to a few people who've been living here for a while to try and understand, or did they hear anything? Did they know Aftab? Had they seen Shraddha? Let's try and get some answers. क्या आपने कभी श्रद्धा और आफ्ताब को साथ यहाँ पर देखा था?
नहीं देखा, हमने कभी भी नहीं देखा. वो लड़के को ऊपर देखा था एक दो बार, उसमें खड़ा हुआ था रेलिंग पे.
रेलिंग पे खड़ा हुआ आपने आफ्ताब को कई बार देखा है. आप लड़के को देखा है. कभी क्या किसी से कोई बातचीत हुई, कुछ हुई?
बातचीत तो नहीं हुई किससे. ऐसे क्यों झूठ बोलिए ना, वैसे बात नहीं हुई हमारे से.
काफी लोगों का ये सवाल है कि इतने घर आसपास हैं तो कैसे किसी ने कुछ सुना नहीं, किसी को कुछ पता नहीं चला?
मैडम हमने तो सुना नहीं कुछ भी. अनुजी के बजाते थे, आवाजें आती थी, अब क्या सुनाई है उसमें. हमें वो दरवाजा तो बंद कर लेते थे।
आपने कभी लड़की को देखा या लड़का लड़की को साथ देखा?
हम तो तीसरी मंजिल पर रहते, जब सब्जी दूध लेने जाते, जब तो चाय देख ले, पानी वानी भरने जाते। एक बार मैं गई थी इनके घर में, मेरे को कहते पानी वानी नहीं है, वो कोई बुजुर्ग था, फिर मैं घर में आ गई थी। उसके बाद मैं इनके घर नहीं आती जाती। वैसे पार्टियां वगैरह चलती हैं, अब ये नहीं पता बेटा भाई ये हाँ किसको बुलाते नहीं है, चलाते नहीं है, तो क्या पता अंदर अंदर क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं बेटा।
तो आप बोल रहे हैं काफी पार्टी होती थी, स्पीकर से काफी आवाज आते थे, तो आपने किस तरह के लोग आते जाते देखे?
तो लड़कियां लड़के बहुत से बच्चे वगैरह भी आते थे, ये नहीं ऐसे देखा था भी ऐसा माहौल होएगा, पर ये तो अब पता चला भी यहाँ पे मर्डर हो गया है। नहीं तो कभी नहीं ऐसे आज तक सुना हमने, तो आज तक नहीं देखा, हमारी गली में तो कभी ऐसा हुआ ही नहीं, तो कैसे कह दे। तो
कैसे बताएंगे is that Aftab was somebody who was aloof. He never said even pleasantries to neighbors while passing by, so they could have never imagined in their wildest dreams that something like this would play out. So the neighbors say Aftab was somebody who was aloof. He didn't really exchange pleasantries with anyone, and that's why they could have never imagined in their wildest dreams that something like this could have happened. The lane that you see behind me is exactly the same lane that Aftab used to take every single night as he stepped out of the residence where Shraddha and he lived to dispose of one body part after another of Shraddha. Of course, this has baffled a lot of investigating agencies because right now there's not much evidence to work with. There is just a confession of Aftab. A 5-day custody has been given to the police officials who also took him to the crime scene to recreate the sequence and to try and understand what led to his death. At this point, I want to bring in my colleagues who've been reporting for us. I want to bring in our guest as well. My colleague Anvit is joining us. He, in fact, has been tracking all these developments as far as the recreation of the crime scene is concerned. My colleague Anshul is joining us from that very particular shop where the refrigerator was bought in which Aftab actually kept the body parts of Shraddha. Nikhil is joining us. He's been tracking as far as the police questioning is concerned. Mir is joining us from Mumbai. He's been tracking the movements and family members of Aftab as well. We also have with us on the show a very special guest to help us understand how do you crack this mystery of this crime. We also have on the show Maxwell Pereira, a former DCP who in fact was the man who cracked the Tandoor case. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. I first want to bring in my colleagues. Anshul, I want to come to you first. You've been reporting for us all day long in between the residence where the Shraddha and Aftab stayed, also talking to shopkeepers as far as where the fridge was bought. What are shopkeepers telling you? Also, you spoke to the doctor very interestingly because we are understanding when Aftab was chopping off the body parts of Shraddha, he actually managed to hurt himself as well. So what did the doctor tell you? What was the rationale or the defense given by Aftab to try and get some sort of treatment? Okay, we seem to be having a bit of an issue trying to establish that connection with Anshul, but let me bring in Anvit in the conversation. Anvit, you've been tracking all the developments as far as recreation of the crime scene is concerned. Two things that I want to understand from you. One, do we have any clarity of what the motive was? What led Aftab in wanting to take this extreme step? Two, more importantly, we're understanding there were 35 body parts. What are officials telling you?
He kept coming to the house and this man was sleeping with other women at the time when the body was still in the fridge. Also, he had promised her to get married. This woman had been pestering him to get married. This is what he has also confessed. This is what her parents had also told police, that initially she had told that she wants to be with this man. Okay. And that is what the reason was, that they had eloped from Maharashtra and come to Delhi. So these theories, this just does not justify the crime that has happened, and it looks more than just a couple's fight that has ended in this violent nature. Also, as far as when your second query is concerned, that 35 pieces is the body was chopped into, and what has the recovery been done so far? Police have recovered at least 10 to 12 pieces, but these pieces, police are saying, are very small fragments of bones that have been recovered at the instance of this man who had been taken to the crime scene, to this jungle area in Chhatarpur. And these pieces now, I would say the probe has just begun, because now these pieces need to be first confirm whether these are human remains, and once that is confirmed, these will be sent to forensic laboratories for DNA profiling, and the samples will be matched with DNA of Shraddha's father, whose medical has already been done. So when we spoke to some senior officials in the FSL, they told us that this will be a very tedious process because extracting DNA
process, as Anvit is pointing out, it's not going to be very simple to try and get answers because one, not all body parts have been recovered. Of course, as Anvit is rightly pointing out, the DNA samples of Shraddha's father has been now taken, and the samples that have been found in the forest area will be matched with that. But I want to bring in our guest Maxwell Pereira as well. Sir, I want to understand, when you see the details that are emerging from this case and the case that you had solved back in the day, what are the kind of similarities that you see?
Unfortunately, it is the chaotic nonsense that you reporters sort of cover. You see, first of all, you have accepted a so-called confession, which is not admissible evidence. So, first of all, you must understand that. Number two, you are talking of the chopping. That is exactly what was done, which was erroneously reported by the reporters like you about the Tandoor murder. The eveningers who covered the issue wanted to sensationalize it, and they reported chopping when there was no chopping at all. It was the bones that we had recovered from the tandoor, which had fallen after being burnt. You know, these are simple things, but you don't know the amount of, red herrings, the amount of distraction, distorted investigation that you people may create, which totally distorts the actual investigation that needs to take
what
place.
Police officials have said. But
yes,
sir,
exactly.
we're only going by what police officials have said as of now.
These
are exactly facts that have been said in the press conference and the interactions that the police officers have had. So the media is also building up on those facts because people are also trying to understand what really led as far as the mindset of the man is concerned.
The police will tell you a story. They don't tell you the facts. These are non-admissible facts.
Okay, we seem to be having a bit of an issue as far as the connection of Maxwell Pereira is concerned. We'll try and re-establish that, but I believe my colleague Anshul is also now back with us. Anshul, essentially I was trying to understand, you've reported from outside the residence where Shraddha and Aftab used to stay. You've also visited the shopping area which was close by from where that refrigerator in fact was picked up. You've also spoken to the doctor because Aftab, remember, managed to hurt himself while he was chopping the body of Shraddha. So talk to us about what is the shopkeepers or people close by to this area have told you. More importantly, what did the doctor say? What was the explanation given by Aftab as to how did he manage to hurt himself?
So yes, at the location at which I am standing right now is approximately 500 to 700 meters away from where you are currently, Ridhima. That is from the residence of Aftab and Shraddha. I'll just move out of the frame and try and show you a few shops that are over here. So the shop that you see, the home and kitchen shop, this is the shop from where Aftab initially went and bought that knife and garbage bags. This has been confirmed to us by the shopkeepers themselves, and also as Aftab made this in his statement, the police made sure that they get him here. And when they got him here, the Aftab himself said that he bought knives and garbage bags from here. From here, now you see this Apex hospital that you can see in your frames right now. This is the very hospital in which Aftab came and got himself stitched when he accidentally cut himself while he was trying to chop. While he was trying to chop Shraddha. And I'll just also show you, there is a shop right there across the road. This is the exact shop from where Aftab went and bought that fridge on the 19th of May. That is the very next morning that he managed to kill Shraddha. The very next morning he comes out, he buys a fridge, he buys those chopping knives and garbage bags, because until the very next morning he had planned what he had to do with the body. And once I spoke to the doctor also actually said that he very vividly remembered him, because he was sort of a person who was speaking in English at all the times. And when the doctor eventually asked him that how did you manage to cut your hand, he said that this is an accidental cut and has been done while he was cutting fruits. Also, The doctor also said that he remembers him as the wife of doctors is from Mumbai, and Aftab himself said that he does not belong to Delhi. He has come to he has come from Mumbai over here because the IT companies over here pay really well, and that is the reason why he has come. And that is the reason why the doctor actually remembered him very vividly. Also, the kind of aggression that he was showing while he was getting stitched, he had no remorse at all on his face. Even when the doctor gave him anesthesia, he had absolutely no pain, and no pain was shown on his face. So yes, he was that kind of a person who absolutely kept a hard face, making sure that no one would be able to find out the kind of incidents that has happened.
That seems to have baffled a lot, right? That after you commit such a gruesome murder, how come there was no change in the demeanor of Aftab? As you've also reported, as Anvit has also reported, at this very same location, he actually had some women friends who were visiting him as well while he had the body parts of Shraddha still kept in that refrigerator. So what really was happening in the mind of Aftab is a question that many would want answers to. But let me bring in Nikhil and Mir in the conversation as well. Nikhil, I want to come to you first. Since what Aftab says is going to become very crucial, but also the evidence that the police find on their own is also going to be very, very crucial. Yes, they have his confession, but anything else that the police have managed to get from Aftab so far?
So Ridhima, as per the details, it is a big challenge for the Delhi police personnel to prove the entire case in the court of law, because so far only what they have is the confession, but they need the evidences as well. In the series of the same, the recovery of the weapon becomes very important, and for the same, the Delhi police officials today took the main accused Aftab to the site where he had thrown the pieces of deceased person Shraddha. At that particular site, he was taken by the Delhi police officials, but no fresh recovery has been made today itself. But so far, what we do know is that 10 to 12 remain of the bone it has been recovered, which have been sent to the FSL. That means once it becomes clear that it belongs to the Shraddha, then it will further be examined whether the DNA matches to his father, to her father or not. So many of the things have been it becomes important here because it has to be proved in the court of law. Apart from it, Ridhima, as you have rightly mentioned, the motive becomes very much important, because had he wanted to just get rid of her, he would have simply said that, see, we should not live together further. But the actual incident turned out to be so gruesome that even people are shocked to the core that how a person could kill his loved one in 35 pieces. This is the reason why the motive of the same becomes important, and there are many of the theories, Ridhima, which are doing round on the social media as well, and the people are asking as to was there any of the suspicion involved between the two, was there any infidelity or the cheating part involved between the two, or was there any of the pressure for the marriage from either of the sides. So the motive becomes important.
Nikhil, also is that is it possible that Aftab could have done all of this alone, or did he actually have accomplices with him? This is something again that the police is looking into as well. I want to bring in Mihir in the conversation as well. Mihir, when I spoke to neighbors here as far as where the couple stayed, one thing that was reiterated by almost every neighbor was that Aftab was an aloof man. He didn't really have any friends. He didn't really speak to anybody, whether it was good or bad times. So we couldn't have known what was going on in his life. What's the situation like in Mumbai? What are people who've known the family for a long time saying? Is it something similar that they're saying there as well?
Absolutely. The description of Aftab was similar to what the neighbors described when you spoke to them in Delhi. In fact, I did speak to some of the members of the particular society where the Poonawallas have been living for years together. They said that it was just another normal family, and the children in the family were just about normal. There was nothing absurd about them. In fact, Aftab was a recluse. He didn't have many friends. So similar kind of description comes out as far as Aftab is concerned. What is shocking is what was playing on his mind with the kind of details that are coming out in this case, with the kind of confessions that are coming out, and we are hearing about it, is the fact that whether this was a spur of the moment fight which led to a murder and then whatever actions he took, or it was a well-planned act by Aftab, is some of the questions that are raised by many. In fact, certain political parties have taken a stand stand, and they are amplifying the entire love jihad angle to it, which is in a sense what even BJP's Ram Kadam and several other pro-Hindu groups are trying to reiterate and trying to push forward in the investigation. What we know at this point is that the initial investigation as far as Aftab is concerned started when a missing report was filed by the family. When Shraddha was untraceable for a while, the family decided to file this missing report and the police started investigating. In fact, Aftab was called all the way from Delhi to Mumbai
There
for
was
questioning.
deception at every single level. If the murder happened in the month of May, the family already had not great relationships with Shraddha. But all of this came to light much later. Why? That's a question that many are asking. I'll just request my colleagues to stay on with us because we want to understand that how come in this period that passed, how come nobody tried to get in touch with Shraddha? Why come no friend really came forward? I have with me Rajat Shukla, who is one of Shraddha's friend, who is now joining us on the broadcast to help us understand when the friend spoke to Shraddha last and had she already raised some concerns about her relationship with Aftab. Rajat, we appreciate you taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. I want to begin by understanding when was the last time you either met or spoke with Shraddha?
The communication that had happened with Shraddha was with Shraddha and her best friend, and that was the time when they were supposed to shift to Delhi. That was Shraddha and Aftab's decision of shifting to Delhi when they had thought that they'll go there, do a job together. Uh, However, Shraddha had already made distance with a lot of friends, and I was one amongst them. I thought maybe she's being rude to me or whatever. That was from the year 2019 itself. She had started being too reserved, too personal.
So when did you feel, Rajat, that something was wrong? Did she specifically speak to you about what were the issues that she was facing, and when did you feel that things were going wrong?
So it was in 2019 itself when it was revealed. So initially, this guy Aftab was pretending to have a nice relationship with this girl, but then 2019 itself, when it was made official, we got to know that maybe they were secretly in a relationship since 2018 itself. That's when we had noticed a sudden change in Shraddha's behavior, where she used to be a jolly, bubbly girl to becoming, too reserved. So we got to know that these people are in a relationship. Initially, everything was nice, but then Shraddha herself revealed to her best friend that this boy Aftab is being violent to her. He beats her up, and things are becoming worse between them. But still, she was continuing. There was something very major that we are not informed about, and that's a question in the head.
Rajat, that's one question that many people want to know is how was Aftab as a friend, as a human being, as a colleague, as a neighbor? You guys must have spoken to him, must have met him. How was he when you met him?
So Aftab was a poker face. I mean, by seeing, so a lot of my friends met him. He was like a person who was a reserved personality. I mean, there are people who are introverts. Introverts are different. I mean, they are like not people who would want to speak, but then reserved are the people who consciously decide to not reveal things about them. So Aftab was one amongst them. He had a poker face. I mean, nothing could have been deciphered just by seeing him.
After one question that also many are trying to get an answer to is that did Shraddha raise red flags earlier? Did she speak to any of you that she was being physically abused or physically harassed?
We were into this relationship, and Aftab was being abusive, uh, and she had shared this with us. Shraddha was not so, simple kind of a girl. She was strong. She was bold. She was certainly a person who would leave the person, and she was also adamant to that fact that she wanted to leave. But why she was unable to leave this person, it cannot be love. There is something more to it that is not seen to the naked eyes.
Rajat, when you say that there was something more than what meets the eye, any reason that you can think of today of what could have been the motive? Anything in hindsight that you remember that possibly Shraddha could have mentioned to you?
Well, seeing this as a love-hate thing or whatever seems absolutely undigestible to me, because in love a person would have their opinions, thoughts, expressions. The person might even debate with each other. If not finding valid things together, not compatible with each other, the person would leave each other out of maybe anger. The person might even raise their hands. But murder is a too big thing. And murdering somebody and making 35 pieces is the superlative form. Staying in that same house and leading an absolute simple life and not making anybody realize that something severe has happened is more superlative. So you can understand how strong this person would be in his mental state, that he was able to commit such a heinous crime and was also able to nearly pull off the whole crime scene and clear off all the evidences.
Okay. Unfortunately, our condolences go out to you as well, Rajat, hoping you as friends and the family members of Shraddha can get some answers as well. Unfortunately, I'll have to leave that conversation there. The investigation is on. We'll have to see what really comes out of it. With that, it's a wrap from my side. Thanks a lot for watching.
...2024 का आप टिकट निकलवा कर रखना, जनवरी का भव्य राम मंदिर अयोध्या में आपको दिखाई पड़ेगा। गुजरातियों का स्वभाव है सबकी सुनते हैं, अब सुनने के कारण किसी के मन में भ्रांति हो जाए तो मैं क्या कह सकता हूं। अपने सभी चुनावी रिकॉर्ड तोड़कर प्रचंड बहुमत के साथ यहां पर हम सरकार बनाएंगे। श्री भूपेंद्र पटेल ही मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं।
Good evening, you're watching Plain Speak on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. It's a tale out of a murder mystery novel, one that can inspire a crime series perhaps or a web series. But this story that I'm going to talk to you about over the next 1 hour is anything but a work of fiction. It has captured the imagination of the entire country for the last 48 hours. It would shake